ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Sunday Night Football overtime. Packers, Seahawks. Want to say that I'm shocked by tonight's outcome, or at least somewhat taken aback, but I'm not. I think I told you guys last week there were two games that I felt really confident about. This was a really good week of football in terms of a lot of the matchups, especially the 4 o'clock hour. We started off with a good Thursday night game in terms of the matchup. It didn't turn out to be a great game to watch necessarily, but start out with a game with playoff implications, so to speak. And I thought the 1 o'clock games kind of lacked that today. Wasn't very many good 1 o'clock games, but the 4 o'clock games had a ton of those implication type games. And, you know, this kind of followed down that road, was a good capper to those 4 o'clock games. And I felt really good about Buffalo beating Detroit. I told you guys that last week. I said they're going to beat them. I think I felt really confident about Philadelphia beating Pittsburgh because of no George Pickens. I kind of felt really confident that they weren't going to have enough offensive firepower to get it done. And then this was the other one, right? I told you, I said, I can't see Seattle beating Green Bay, you know? One thing I really like about good teams is generally they rebound and bounce back from a loss the week prior. You know, Lamar Jackson, I think I saw a stat today. He's like 17-4 after a loss. Generally, really good teams, you know, big time quarterbacks, they stop streaks by themselves. They don't allow you to go on losing streaks. And I'm not telling you that's what Jordan Love is right now, but when Jordan Love isn't turning the football over, he's really good. Now, it helps to have a running back like Josh Jacobs to hand it off to. It helps a hell of a lot. But Jordan Love is really good. And this Packers team is really good. And, you know, they got a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the football. And, you know, you don't really know what you're going to get from them defensively from week to week. But offensively, when they're right, they're as good as anybody in the NFC. And one of the things they love to do, and let me say this, 30-13 victory for the Packers gets them to 10-4 on the season, gets them one step closer to clinching a playoff berth. They're pretty much in. I've said this time and time again that the magic number in the NFC is 10. You get to 10 wins, and you're probably going to get in, more likely than not. Of the teams that are already currently in, if the playoffs started today, let me say that. But the magic number is 10. And if you can get to 10 wins, you're going to give yourself a really good shot at getting in. One of these, I've said this already. I'm going to continue to hammer this point home. We'll save that more so for when we get to Seattle, but that's a one-bid division. It's been a one-bid division for me this entire time. It has not changed. It's whoever wins the division is getting in, and that's it. It's I still, you know, maintain that the NFC North are getting 3 teams in. I think that's abundantly clear now with Minnesota clinching officially tonight. Detroit clinched officially last week, and this Packers team ever so close to doing the same as well after winning tonight, 30-13. They're getting 3 in. I think the NFC East gets 2, and then you have your 2 division winners in the NFC South and in the NFC West. So I think this is a one-bid division if you're the Seattle Seahawks. So This is a tough loss, but we'll get to them in a second. But one of the things I've been fascinated with in a league where, and I'm a big proponent of this, in a league where if you win the toss, you defer. I mean, it's the smart thing to do if you ask me. We know what the score is at the beginning of the game. We don't know what the score is going to be. That's my biggest thing. Is a lot of people like to talk about the double dip scenario and situation. I mean, that's cool if you get that opportunity, great. But my biggest thing is I don't know what the score is going to be at halftime of the game. But whatever the score is, having the football can enhance whatever the score is, or it can benefit you, is probably the best way to put it. There's never a time where getting the ball to start the second half doesn't benefit you. Never. There will never be a scenario where that doesn't make sense. Whether you're up 17-0 or you're trailing 17-0, you want the ball equally as bad, right? Chance to put the game away, chance to get back in the game. If it's tied, great. I got a chance to take the lead, right? Whatever the case may be. Beginning of the game, not so much, right? I know the score. It's 0-0. Great if you score opening drive touchdown. Awesome. If you take the ball and you score, what happens if the other team responds and scores a touchdown and now you're back to square one, right? But Matt LaFleur doesn't see it that way. He sees winning the toss, taking the football, as an opportunity to set the tone for the game. He did it last year against Dallas, on the road, in the postseason, won the toss, took the ball, went down the field, scored a touchdown, and that game was never the same. He did it again here, and this is a theme of his. He loves to win the toss and take the football, especially if he wants to make a statement. But he believes in his offense. He believes in his play calling, the game plan, etc. And we want to unleash it right away. And we not only want to unleash it right away, we want to do so by putting you on notice at the very beginning of the game that this is what you can expect all day. And if you can't stop it, you're in for a long one. We want to go out and we want to set the tone. And that's what they did on that opening possession. And yes, they were aided with a personal foul penalty on that opening drive, but they were moving it, man. And it was pretty much on the ground. I want to say it was an 11-play drive, and 9 of the 11 plays were runs. But all 11 plays, if I'm not mistaken, were Josh Jacobs touches. The 2 passes were to Josh Jacobs in the screen game. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there was a concerted effort going into the game to get Josh Jacobs going early. That's just a guess. Don't quote me on that. Just a hunch. But of an 11-play drive, he touches it all 11 times and caps it off with a touchdown run. And that set the tone. You know, they bullied the Seahawks in the first half of this game. And with the way they had been playing of late, they were the bullies. They were the ones neutralizing teams, you know, and holding them down point-wise and playing a physical brand of football that allowed them to, you know, turn their season around off that bye week and take the lead in that division. You know, they were the ones kind of pummeling teams. They outlasted the 49ers in San Francisco. They beat up the Cardinals at home 16-6. They were the ones really beating up teams, neutralizing them. And to get punched in the mouth on the opening possession, they beat the shit out of the Cardinals last week. You know, Charbonnet bludgeoned them to death on the ground, and they were the aggressors over this stretch. And that wasn't the case tonight. Green Bay took it to them from the word go, the opening kickoff, and they didn't look back. I mean, it was 14-0, then it was 17-3. Then Geno Smith does that thing that he likes to do every so often where he refuses to err on the side of caution. Like, they're in field goal range. You don't have to win the game right now. You're down 17-3. If you want a touchdown, yes, that is true. But if you can't get it, but one thing you can't do in that situation is throw an interception and come away with no points. That is a no-no, because that puts you in a position where you lose all momentum, right? You're getting the ball to start the second half, mind you. So if you could get a field goal before halftime, you make it 17-6. Maybe you got a chance to get back in the game with a touchdown to start the second half, right? But instead, throw the interception, and it kind of felt like that was the perfect way to cap a rough first half, really dominated by the Green Bay Packers, I may add. And it was much of the same in the second half. The Packers could kind of take their foot off the gas just a bit because Geno Smith ended up getting hurt. Sam Howell came in, and he was awful. Now, that offensive line of Seattle's wasn't very good. You got to credit Green Bay too. I just thought even when Geno was in the game, they were getting a great rush with just 4, and they kind of highlighted that with a package they put together showing all of the pressure that they were able to generate just rushing 4. That line looked to be out of sorts tonight for whatever reason. And yeah, you had a undrafted center, you had a 6th round right guard, and it looked like it. It showed, but they weren't the only ones getting beat. Your right tackle was getting beat like he stole something, and it was constant pressure on Geno Smith before he got injured. And then Sam Howell came in, and we know one of the things he does not do well is handle pressure. If you're going to give him a chance, you're going to have to protect him. And he came in and picked right up where he left off last year in Washington, seeing defenders, having that, pounded into his head, don't turn it over. And so he was taking sack after sack after sack. And he's so tiny too. You forget how tiny he is, and you see him back there, and it's just tough for him to maneuver and things of that nature. And credit Green Bay for just getting after him, man, and making life miserable for him, taking away anything vertical, making him check everything down underneath. And when he did finally get completion, so Green Bay's defense was probably the biggest surprise to me tonight. If I would say there was something that caught me a little bit off guard, it was just how well they played defensively, because having watched them this season and some of the injuries that have occurred, and especially in the secondary, you just thought there might have been some opportunities. Geno had come in as one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of throwing the football, yardage wise. You thought there may be some opportunities there, and their ability to pass rush put them in a position tonight where the Seahawks never really got into a rhythm offensively. And by the time you thought maybe after, they forced the turnover, Geno was hurt. Maybe they could get into a little something, because that first possession of the second half, they moved it. Then they had, I want to say, a penalty that stagnated that drive because they had actually converted a 3rd and 19, I believe it was 3rd and 16, whatever the case may be, but they had a holding penalty, and it negated that. And so they ended up having a punt, and then Geno got hurt on that play. So Green Bay did a really good job of just never letting Seattle feel comfortable offensively. And I didn't think they could do that defensively. I didn't think they could do that. I thought they would be able to run it a little bit. I definitely thought they were going to be able to throw the ball around the yard a little bit today. And they were able to do none of it. Zach Charbonnet had a career day last week. He was largely ineffective tonight. As I mentioned, Geno didn't have time. He wasn't comfortable. Highly effective, when he did have a semblance of time, Geno was, but it was so often that he wasn't able to have time back there, and he ended up getting hurt. And then Howell came in, and they harassed him just like they did Geno. And unlike Geno, Sam Howell is not able to deal with, a little bit of pressure, stand back there and wipe the slate clean and deliver the football. So it started to snowball for him, and Green Bay just took advantage of all the opportunities, and they win this one going away 30-13. And I'll tell you what, they're probably not going to win the division. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show, but they're going to be like, you're looking, it's crazy. I take this moment just to quickly talk about the NFC overall, because before the season, we talked so much about the AFC and the firepower over there, the quarterbacks, and that's the dominant conference, right? But as it stands right now, we pretty much know the 7 teams over there. We talked about that like 2 weeks ago. Because of the drop off after you get past the Chargers and Broncos and teams of that nature that are 8-5, well, 8-6 in the case of the Chargers. The Broncos are now 9-5. But if you get past those teams in the AFC West after Kansas City, there's just nothing left in the AFC. Cincinnati's too little, too late. The Dolphins aren't good enough to complete what they needed to complete, and the Colts aren't good enough. So there's no other teams over there. But when you look at the AFC, it really just feels like either Baltimore gets their shit together or not. Buffalo and Kansas City, like that is it. None of the other teams feel like they got a real shot at doing anything in the postseason, and that includes Pittsburgh, right? But if you look on the NFC side, Detroit is dangerous. Philadelphia is dangerous. Minnesota could be dangerous because they play defense. And if Sam Darnold somehow is able to keep doing what he's doing, they're dangerous. This Green Bay Packers team is extremely dangerous, and they've got playoff experience to boot. Doing what they did last year, which is why I'm dying for my Commanders to get in and get a taste, is because it is invaluable to get that postseason experience. And they got it last year. They won a playoff game. They went on the road, and they had the team that ultimately represented the conference on the ropes and let them off the hook in San Francisco. And so they know they're capable. They know they're capable. And so that's a dangerous Green Bay Packers team, and we saw it tonight, and they were clicking tonight. So and then Tampa goes to the Chargers and tears them apart. And think about this. Now, I know they're not the exact same team as they were earlier in the season when a lot of this transpired, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat both Philadelphia and Detroit. Okay, those are two loss teams, and each of them were handed a loss at the hands of Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they just went to Los Angeles and dismantled the Chargers, tore them to shreds in their own building, put up 40 points in the process. They're highly dangerous, are the Buccaneers. And you just look around the NFC and you're like, whoa, like anything can happen. Anything. And this Packers team right in the middle of all of that conversation as they take care of business, bounce back from a tough Thursday night loss to the Lions with a 30-13 victory, a dominant performance too. This game never felt close or within striking distance or any of that. Jumped on them from the opening possession. You looked up, it's 14-0, then it was 17-3, and it just felt like a dominant performance from there on out. 30-13, they're now 10-4, and a win next week on Monday Night Football versus the Saints, which we all expect them to get, will clinch a playoff berth for them for what, the second, I mean, how many years in a row is that though? So they missed it in Aaron Rodgers last year, so it'll be the second straight year, and it'll be what, 5 out of 6 probably for Matt LaFleur, if I had to guess. I think he went with Rodgers 3 times, maybe twice. Might be 4 out of 5 years, but who's counting, right? So then you get to Seattle's side of things, and I think this is the Seattle Seahawks team that I thought we were getting right around the middle of the season where we thought we figured them out. Like, okay, cute how they started off the season. They didn't really play anybody, so they were finding ways to win, but you weren't really convinced that they were any good. And then they had that stretch where they just struggled. They were getting beat, and you said, okay, this is who they are. And you know what's crazy is during that time, we also were saying, hey, if Geno's going to keep doing dumb shit, we might as well see what Sam Howell can do. Well, I mean, it's one thing to put a guy in the game and just throw him out there when you're already struggling and your offensive line can't protect. But It's another thing to give him a week to prepare for the opponent, et cetera, et cetera. But still, he looked like ass tonight, did Sam Howell. So this is a insult to injury type of loss, because this could have far-reaching, consequences moving forward if Geno Smith can't come back. And he didn't look good on the sidelines. His body language, the fact that he could barely stand, it doesn't speak to a situation that seems like it's going to improve in enough time for him to be back to help you next week. And it's equally as important, and the opponent is equally as daunting. The task, you could argue, is even more daunting next week because it's Minnesota. But if I'm not mistaken, I think you are at home yet again. But I thought the problem started with the inability to run the football. Like, I know Geno is capable, and we've seen him carry this team in stretches this year. But I think the biggest problem started early on when this team couldn't establish a run game. And you could see that they were going to put a lot of the onus. I mean, Charbonnet, 8 carries, 54 yards. He had a 24-yarder, relatively early. But this was not a night where they decided to run the ball very often. And they put a lot of pressure. Like, even when Sam Howell came in, I was like, this is faulty play calling. Because Sam Howell comes in off the bench, and I think the first 6 to 8 plays were with throws. And I'm like, is Sam Howell a magnet for coordinators losing their damn minds and just deciding to abandon the run? It's almost like he's got some kind of run repellent on him or something. And they're like, Sam Howell is in the game, must throw football. Like, it's almost like it's some kind of switch, or they have a chip embedded in them that states they can't run the ball when Sam Howell's under center or something. It's crazy. But they just abandoned the run when he came in. Almost like wholly, they stopped running the ball. And not that they were having a tremendous success early with Geno, but it was, I just told you, Zach Charbonnet, 8 for 54. Now, you take away the 24-yard run at 7 for 30, but that's still not a reason to stop running the ball, right? Like, they just didn't run it tonight. And it put a lot of pressure on Geno, and they had issues. They moved it a little bit, and then they got into the red zone, or they got into plus territory, and then they started having mistakes and, sacks and negative plays, and they unraveled. And it led to Green Bay, who started out like game busters, as I mentioned, to get out to a lead, and maybe it made them feel like they needed to get away from the run. Okay, now we're down 14-0. Now we're down 17-3. Maybe we need to get away from the run. And it felt like it was just too much time for them to abandon the run game. But maybe they didn't feel that way. Maybe the deficit felt larger to them because of the way the game was going. But for whatever reason, they got away from the run, and I thought that was a mistake. Defensively, I was shocked at how they just couldn't stop the run. Like, they'd done a really good job here late of kind of neutralizing teams' ability to run the football and make them one-dimensional, and then try and get after them. And clearly that didn't happen. In the first half, Josh Jacobs had over 70 yards rushing by himself. I told you the first possession of the game were 11 Josh Jacobs touches, 2 through the air, 9 on the ground, and they had no answers. So really shocked at the inability of Seattle to neutralize, because you came into the game knowing that you were going to get a heavy dose of Josh Jacobs. So the assumption was they would be ready for the challenge, geared up to stop him, and that was not the case from the word go. And again, it put pressure on an offense that really hasn't had a ton of pressure on it. Like last week, the defense gave up a touchdown on the opening possession. The offense responded with a field goal, and then from that point forward, the defense dominated. Picked off Kyler Murray 2 straight possessions. Next thing you know, it's 17-7, and they're, kind of in total control. Now they can run the ball, and like you never put yourself in a position to do that in this game. And I think this is more of who they are, though, to be honest with you. Like, I felt like they had kind of overachieved. First year head coach, you know, he was getting them to believe. And like, I mean, again, it doesn't matter if you're impressed or not. Like, they easily could have lost to the Jets 2 weeks ago. They found a way to win. Last week, they were really good against Arizona. But I don't think the things that they do on a weekly basis are consistently repeatable. I don't think it's something that they can replicate on a weekly basis, if that makes sense. They have to run the ball. And they didn't tonight. And asking Geno Smith to win you games is not a winning recipe. And they were well on their way before he got injured, asking Geno to throw it 40 some odd times tonight. And that to me is a losing recipe. He was 15 and 19 when he got injured, and he was going to throw it 25 more times in this game. And they don't win when he does that, by the way. And so I didn't think it was a great game plan, or it wasn't great execution by Seattle. But when it's all said and done, they're going to lose this division. And the biggest reason why is the health of Geno Smith now, because Sam Howell didn't look comfortable tonight. And like I said, if Geno can't go and it doesn't look good right now, Minnesota is known for blitzing, right? Like Sam Howell has proven throughout his career, he does not handle the blitz well. He does not handle pressure well. We know that Brian Flores is going to look at Sam Howell if that is in fact who is getting the nod next week, and he's going to lick his chops and say, "Oh shit, fresh meat." Pause. And he's going to send the dogs. He's going to send the dogs. So I don't see how you can be effective. And then the Rams are playing such good football. I think the Rams are playing the Jets next week, if I'm not mistaken. They should win that game. Meanwhile, you're playing Minnesota, and you still have to play this Rams team again as well. And so it just doesn't feel like it's shaping up in a manner that's going to allow you to, make the postseason here. You're now tied with the Rams at 8-6. They own the tiebreaker by virtue of a better divisional record, and they've beaten you head-to-head, but you still play them once, so you can control that outcome there. But I think when it's all said and done, you may win one more game this season. I wouldn't be shocked if you don't win any more games this season, and especially if Geno Smith is hurt. But it to me, it begs another question. Like, and I know you guys were interested in a quarterback in the draft, and if Michael Penix had fallen to you guys, you were going to take him, which we all assumed Michael Penix would be there at your pick, which we would have been wrong because the Raiders would have taken him. If the Falcons didn't, the Raiders were going to take him. But maybe you need to start looking for a quarterback. I'm not telling you that Geno's the problem, but is Geno the solution? Right? All I know is, I don't know how the hell we managed to get a 3rd round pick for Sam Howell, essentially. But we really appreciate you taking him off of our hands. My goodness. That was a rough outing for old Sammy Howell. I still think he can play in this league, but we did a number on him, man. I'm giving him the same treatment I used to give Patrick Ramsey once upon a time. Like, man, I know Patrick Ramsey. I was such a P-Ram fan, but boy, the old ball coach did a number on that man's psyche. You get hit that many times, you start seeing ghosts. You're not the same guy you came in the league as. I feel the same way about Sam Howell. we broke his spirits. We broke him as a quarterback. That's unfortunate, but that's how the cookie crumbles. So Seattle is 8-6 after this loss, and they are in trouble playoff wise. And I've got some odds that kind of bear that out. So we're going to take a look at that here in a second. But let's go ahead and get a word from one of our sponsors. Let's go inside the odds, brought to you by Bet US.
Inside the odds.
Looking for a new book? BetUS has you covered. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get back up to 10% on your net losses twice a year as long as you were active within the last 6 months. And here's a big kicker for new users. Head over to betus.com and use the promo code YouTube150 to get you 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Also, remember to bet responsibly. Don't bet more than you can afford to lose. And remember, do not chase your losses. It is an infinite black hole. So these were the odds brought to you by BetUS prior to the game's kickoff. The the Packers were 2-point favorites on the road at Seattle. Obviously, Vegas expecting a much closer contest than the one we got tonight. But they did, in fact, expect the Packers to win, as did I. As you can see, the over-under total was 47 points. That was exceeded tonight. No, it was not 30-13. It was 43 points. I would have taken the over. I thought there would be some points scored on both sides. I thought this was going to be something more like, 29-22, 29-26, something like that, 30-24. I thought both teams were going to score some points. I know Seattle have been playing better defensively, but I also watched them, fall down 14-0 to the, New York Jets. And so I just felt like there'd be some points scored in this game. Both sides. Not one side scoring and the other, pretty much not. But I digress there. Let's go to something that's a little bit more interesting here. And these are the division odds. This is brought to you by BetUS. As you can see, I pulled these off this morning before any games had taken place yet, while all of this was still on the board. And I was interested more so in the NFC West division odds, because we kind of feel like, as you can see, the Packers are plus 25,000. Like they were 3 games back at kickoff of the 1:00 games, and they lost the tiebreaker to Detroit, who's already swept them this season. So in effect, they are 4 games back with 4 to go. So they're like, if you would love to put some money down on Green Bay to win the division, please, by all means, 25 plus 25,000. Knock yourself out. All right. Detroit would have to lose every game on the schedule, and Minnesota would essentially have to do the same as well for them to win the division. But, Detroit did lose today, as I think many of us thought they would. And Minnesota can win tomorrow and close that gap, right? And be just a game behind, or I think they'll actually have the same record, but obviously Detroit beat them head-to-head, so they would have the tiebreaker there. But those two teams play each other in week number 18, so that could ultimately be for the division. We will see what that looks like. But I was more interested in the NFC West because we watched the Rams on Thursday night defeat the San Francisco 49ers effectively, which the 49ers weren't going anywhere anyway, but they effectively ended the 49ers season and put themselves in a great position to make the postseason with that victory. And so I was wondering, and I had brought this up to you guys, where are the Rams in the division odds? Like, are they the favorites? Seahawks have been in first place for the last couple of weeks. Are they the favorite? So this is what it looked like. The Rams, after their victory on Thursday Night Football, took over the odds lead in the NFC West. Their odds to win the division are -110, followed by the Seahawks at +115, and then the Cardinals are a long shot at +1,000. They did win their game today over the New England Patriots, as we all expected them to, getting them to 7-7. But they could easily be a +25,000, just like Green Bay is, just off the strength of their divisional record. The Cardinals have been swept by Seattle. They have beaten the Rams, but they have the Rams once more. I think, matter of fact, those two teams play in 2 weeks from now. And if I'm not mistaken, they have San Francisco one more time on the schedule. That one is at home. But in any event, that was interesting to me that the Rams already were the odds-on favorite to win that division, despite Seattle having led the division the last couple of weeks. And, they were playing really good football. But that just goes to show you that Vegas understood what the situation was. They knew that they didn't know Geno Smith was going to get hurt, but looking at Seattle's schedule, and that was the thing that kind of rattled my cage a bit, was Green Bay this week, Minnesota next week, and then you got the Rams to finish up. And if I'm not mistaken, it's some other decent team in between those two. So it's a pretty daunting task, if I may say so myself. So that's where we are from a divisional standpoint. I think the Rams are going to win that division. That's what it feels like right now. I think the Rams are going to. And I love the fact that, that's why I keep telling Commanders fans, it's really 10 is the number, because with Seattle losing tonight, and we really couldn't lose tonight. I know a lot of people wanted the 6th seed, but that even if the Packers had lost tonight, it was going to still take work on the part of the Commanders to keep the 6th seed. You would only have been holding that spot down temporarily. It would have felt good when they showed the graphic on the screen to be at the 6th seed and, not be that first team out if something were to go awry. But that would have been a temporary placeholder. We would have been a temporary placeholder there if we didn't take care of business the following week against Philadelphia. Couple that with a Green Bay win on a Monday night versus New Orleans, and they would have been right back in, the 6th spot. We would have been back at 7. So it's whatever. The biggest thing was, as long as it wasn't a tie tonight, it was going to be beneficial for the Commanders, because Seattle losing pretty much means that the likelihood is one of those two teams is going to end up with 10 wins, right? There was a outside shot that Seattle could, get to that final game and be at, 11 wins, and the Rams could get to that game and be at 10, and they play each other, and both teams could end up having 11 wins. That would have been the worst case scenario for Washington. Now, they still would have, but if Washington gets to 11, they still would have been in. But that's a lot tougher, right? You're asking Washington to finish up winning 3 out of their final 4. They got the first one out of the way today. Mission accomplished there, but you still have to win 2 out of your final 3. And it's still a young team. You're asking a lot of them. You would much rather just have to win 10. With Seattle losing tonight, it's more likely that the loser of that division is going to be at 10 wins. You know what I'm saying? Best case scenario. Let's say Seattle loses next week against Minnesota, then they bounce back, beat whoever they're playing in week 17. They're 9-7 going into the final game of the season against the Rams. Somebody's got to lose that game, right? The Rams have the Jets, then they play the Cardinals. Let's say that they beat the Cardinals and the Jets. They're 10-6 going into that final game. Seattle is 9-7. Guess what? If the Rams win that game, they win the division. Seattle's a 9-win team. They're not at 10. Doesn't matter. We still get in, right? The let's say Seattle wins that game, then the Rams and Seattle are both at 10. So are we. We get in regardless, right? So essentially what I'm saying to you is Seattle losing tonight put us in a great position to get in with 10 wins. And that was the goal for me, right? Once we couldn't win the division, once we lost to Dallas, just get to 10, man. 10 should get you in, you know? The only thing I would say is we play Atlanta, and Atlanta can get hot. They played the softest schedule of any team left in the NFL, right? They got the softest schedule. They play every team that they played down the stretch, with the exception of Washington, has 3 or less wins to their name this season. Okay. They play the Panthers, they play the Raiders, the Panthers, and I forget who the other team is. They play one more bad team, like a New England or somebody like that. Raiders, Panthers, somebody else, and the Commanders are their 4 final games. So we have to beat them, because in a tie scenario, if they somehow manage to start getting hot, which they can, the Raiders beating them would be wondrous. But I'm not really tripping off of Atlanta, right? They are still 2 games back. If they win tomorrow, they're 7-7. But they play us. So they really control their outcome. Like, if they just win the rest of their games, they could get in as a wild card. Because they play us. And if we lose to them and Philadelphia, and we end up at 10-7, but we beat Dallas, we'll be tied at 10-7 with them, but they beat us head-to-head. So they would get the nod. You see what I'm saying? So, again, the key is just take care of business. You don't got to worry about any of that stuff. You don't got to worry about somebody else doing your work for you. Just take care of business. But 10 should be the magic number for the Commanders. You get to 10, you should be fine. But it's a way to get to 10. Like, yeah, I want to beat Philadelphia. But if you tell me I'm only winning 10 games, one of those wins needs to be against the Atlanta Falcons if you want to get in. That's the one you got to have out of all the remaining games. You want to win all of them. That's the goal. But if you got to win one, it's the Atlanta Falcons one. Right? So I digress. Let's get to the comment section. See what you guys have to say. For those of you who don't know how this works, it's really simple. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent and time permits. I can't assure you we will get to your comments, but using the hashtag will give you the best opportunity to have that take place. But if you want to ensure that your comment is read, that we respond and react to it, and you want to jump straight to the front of the line, super chats are the way to get that done. So with that said, quick little promo, and then we're going to jump into the action. Going on, it's your man Louie T here with a public service announcement. We're sunning and funning in June. That's right. We're heading to the DR, Punta Cana, all-inclusive resort, June 26th through the 30th. And I want you to be a part of the fun. All of the information you need is right here on this screen in front of you. Any extra added information that you need can be found in a video that's attached to the description of this video and any video that you see this promo in. Also, if you need further information or you just want clarification on something, feel free to email me, LouieTeeNetwork@gmail.com. June 26th through the 30th, we're heading to the DR, and we're going to have a blast. And I'm going to make sure this is a time you won't forget. And a lot of the things we do on this trip, we will not repeat again on future trips. So you don't want to miss this trip. You need to be 21 years of age or older to attend, and you also need to have a passport. That is important as well.
Also, take advantage of this holiday special we have on the registration fee. Knock $50 off of the registration fee. And then if you're a member of the mob, knock an additional percentage off of that good through the end of this year. So you don't want to miss out. Take advantage of it while that offer still lasts. So any questions, hit me up. We're going to the DR. We're sunning and funning, and I want you to be a part of the fun. Come join your man Louie T as we turn up in the DR. All right, so we sunning and funning in June 26th through the 30th, in the DR, all inclusive in Punta Cana at the Hard Rock Cafe. Hope you can join me. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm looking to interact with you, the viewers out there, the subscribers, the mob, whoever wants to go. It's gonna be a great time, and I'm hoping you can. Don't beat me there. Don't meet me there. Beat me there. But you want to take advantage of the registration, holiday registration deal we got going on right now. That's good to the end of the year. So looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible. Got 50 spots available. They're filling up. So hopefully you'll be one of the 50, right? Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. Isaiah Rosa, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Isaiah Rosa writes, was Hurts a passenger today? I couldn't tell you. I didn't get to watch the game yet. So I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm assuming Saquon I know he only had like 60 yards rushing. So I would assume that he played well today. But again, this was expected. The Steelers aren't great in the secondary. So as long as you had time to throw and your offensive line does a pretty good job of giving Jalen Hurts an opportunity to throw the football, he should have had opportunities to throw. That's not a great secondary in Pittsburgh. So I would assume he played well today. Good for him. Yes, he's a passenger, though. Nothing has changed. He's a passenger. The goal every week you play the Philadelphia Eagles is to stop Saquon Barkley and make Jalen Hurts beat you. And if he does, you tip your cap and you say, we'll try it next time. But that's the goal every week. He's not a quarterback that you go in fearing and saying, hey, we can't let him get off. He's not one of them ones. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not, Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not one of those dudes that you go in game planning to stop. You go into the game to stop Saquon and you make Jalen Hurts beat you. You treat him like you treat Jared Goff, right? Don't let the running backs get off. Don't let Sonic and Knuckles beat you. Make Jared Goff beat you. That's how you treat Jalen Hurts. I hope that answers your question. Kyle W. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kyle writes, hey, Lou. So do you see that Mahomes' injury affecting their home field advantage at all? Well, I would tell you that, first of all, yes, it could, depending on the severity of it. First of all, Mahomes has done this before, right? Now, I was shocked to see him not come back in, but they didn't need him today. The Browns were absolutely awful. So he could afford to be out the rest of that game, and they could get it done without him, which they did because the defense was playing so well. But I expect him to play against who's next? The Texans and then the Steelers. And I think he was already bitching and complaining about 3 games in 11 days or some shit like that. Well, this doesn't make it any better, right? Because clearly, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be playing next Saturday against the Texans. And then, on Christmas Day, they're playing the Steelers, if I'm not mistaken, again. So it affects them because they played 3 games in 11 days. And he's not going to be healthy for any of them. So, yeah, it does. And they're playing good teams. It's not like they're playing Cleveland again or some team of that ilk. They're playing Houston, who is a division winner, who's already punched their playoff ticket, but they need to see themselves beat a team the caliber of Kansas City because I still don't think they're playing all that good of a football right now, are the Texans. But you know what would boost their confidence? Beating the best team in the conference. So
Yeah, that's a big one. And then you turn around and you have the Steelers who are fighting for their division lives. They've already clinched a playoff spot, but they want to play at Heinz Field. They don't want to have to go on the road in Wild Card Weekend. They need to win the division in order to do that. And oh, by the way, the Baltimore Ravens are knocking at the door. And so, yeah, it's going to affect them and their home field potentially if they can't win some of these games. But I think it just puts more weight on them and more pressure on them to be the number 1 seed because of needing that extra time for Mahomes to heal. You would love to get that first round bye. Like, it would be great if they could somehow manage, because they're up 2 with 3 to go, right? But they can't finish tied with Buffalo. So in effect, they would need to win their next 2. That would set them up at up 2 with 1 to go. They would clinch, right? They would have already clinched with a win in week 17. So what the perfect scenario would be: win the next 2 against Houston and Pittsburgh, not need the week 18 game against the Chargers, which would suck for a team like, well, it doesn't matter. The Chargers are getting in. None of those teams behind them are a threat. But it'll suck for those teams because you want Kansas City needing that game so that they play their starters, et cetera, et cetera. But the perfect scenario for the Chiefs would be win your next 2, don't need week 18, clinch the number 1 seed. So in effect, Mahomes will get 3 weeks of rest. Him and anybody else that's got anything ailing them will get 3 weeks of rest between the week 18 game not playing, the first round bye, and then, you know, the game in the divisional round would be their first. Could be a little bit of rust, but you'd rather him be healthy than, be, banged up, right? You'd rather him be healthy and you deal with a little bit of rust playing in the game. But yes, it does affect their chances of getting home field advantage without question, especially with the games coming up. DQ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DQ says, please, I need y'all boys to whoop the Falcons for me. Hashtag let's go Bucks, baby. Look, we at one at a time, right? It was Saints this week, barely got by there. Eagles this week now. That is the focus. So, we can't allow ourselves to get caught up in anything but the task at hand. You beat the Eagles next week, and that'll get you to 10. And at that point, with 2 games remaining at 10 wins, you're practically in if you're the Commanders. So next week is the focus. But no matter what happens in that game, we still have a great shot of getting in. But the next goal is to beat Philadelphia. We got to start winning games in the division. If you want to be taken serious, you got to start finding a way to beat the teams in your division. So that, I think we're getting to the point now where I've always said the first step on the road to becoming a good team is beating the teams you're supposed to beat. Outside of losing to Dallas, we've effectively done that this year. I'd say mission accomplished. We've beaten all the teams that we were supposed to beat this season. Now, we've struggled with the ones that are actually good, and that's the next step, right? Is beating teams at your level or above your level. But you got to take care of the ones you're supposed to take care of. And got a tough one coming up. And we're going to focus on that one first. But trust me, after we take care of Philadelphia, then the focus turns to Atlanta. And that's one without question, I talked about it already. We got to have it. Got to have it. Black Al B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Black Al B writes, what it do, Lou? Today is my born day. Man, happy born day, man. Is it today or when was this sent? Yeah, so today, the 16th of December is what you're telling me. That's your born day. Happy born day, man. Shout out to my guy, Mr. The Black Al B. Y'all make sure y'all send some birthday love his way in the comment section, man. Shout out to my guy. the Black Al B, man. Happy born day, my G. He says, and Buffalo gave a great gift, but you knew Buffalo was gonna win that game, right? Like I told you last week, I said Buffalo's gonna bounce back. Like Josh Allen is league MVP, and he went out and he showed it. Need my Vikes to finish up the rest of the gift on Monday Night Football, LOL. And you will. And you will. You'll take care of the Bears and get that much closer to potentially winning that division. That's wild how good that division has been this year. I mean, I said this when it was our turn back in 2022. And this is how bad the AFC South has been, where you look at that division and you say, hey, whoever wants to win this division got to pretty much sweep that division and then go 4-2 within, your division. The year when we had 3 teams make it, and it should have been all 4 for the first time, a division had all 4 make it. We played that same division. And most of the teams in the division mopped up the AFC South, got fat off of them. And that's what y'all have done this year. That's why everybody in the division stands for Chicago is double digits in wins, because you got to play Houston, Indy, and not that Houston's easy, but that was the one team in the division you could struggle with. We just take it from this perspective. You take away 3 wins, and not say that you wouldn't have beaten, other teams in other divisions, but y'all beat Houston. Detroit, have they played Houston yet? Yeah, they went to Sunday night. That's when Jared Goff threw 5 picks and they came back. So Detroit beat Houston, y'all beat Houston, and Green Bay beat Houston. So all of y'all beat the best team in the division. And then nobody was losing to Indy, Tennessee, and Jacksonville. So that's 4 wins that the entire division pretty much got. And y'all took advantage of it. I got to give y'all credit. I expect y'all to do y'all part on Monday night and get to 12-2. And now it'll be 3 teams at 12-2 in the NFC. Like, it's crazy. Y'all could get the number 1 seed, Black Al B. Man, this shit is wild, bro. We're going to try to do our part to help you get where you need to go. We're going to try to do our part. DQ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. DQ writes, oh, please beat the Eagles. They fans annoy me. Get in line. Okay, I don't know more annoying fan base than Eagles fans, but I can tell you this much. Y'all are the antidote. If anybody should be able to talk shit to Eagles fans, it's you. They don't know how to beat y'all. Y'all got the antidote. So if y'all run into them in the postseason, it could be curtains for them. Every time they see y'all, they go running the other way. So if anybody should be able to talk cold, hard cash to Eagles fans, it's you. You got the juice. Black Al B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, the 15th is the born day. LOL. What are you late then? Well, so you know what? You probably are on the central time zone. My apologies. You probably in the central, so you're an hour behind where we are. So it's still 11:30 your time. So it's still technically the 15th where you are. So I have to make it make sense, because I'm like, wait, what? No, it's the 16th here on the East Coast. Your birthday passed then. And I saw when the chat was made, I'm like, oh, it's 12:24. So like, yeah, you're talking about today. No, it's 11:24 where you are when you made the super chat. And so it's the 15th still where you are. So I got you. You know what would be cool? I know this has nothing to do with nothing. You know what would be dope is if somebody were to celebrate New Year's 4 times in one day, right? Ball drops in one time zone, you celebrate it, then you go back a time zone and you do it again. And then the ball drops there and you go another time zone over and you do it again. And the ball drops again and you do it again. You go back to the final time zone and you do it again. That would be crazy. I wonder if anybody's ever tried to do that. I'm pretty sure some crazy ass person with a bunch of money and resources to burn and waste has tried to do that. I don't know if it's possible or not, but I would imagine so. Anyway, I digress. That just made me think of that because I thought it was the 16th where you were, like it is where I am, but it's not. But enjoy the rest of your born day. I'll just say that. You got about 30 minutes left, man. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. If you're having a drink, cheers. The Blackout B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Blackout B writes, I'm in PA. Oh, shit. Then you on the same time zone as I am. Yeah. He says, just sent the shit late. Well, then, yeah, you just late as hell. You had me thinking your birthday was today. Your birthday was yesterday. Happy belated then. Either way, the Bills gave you a great gift, as you said. Now you just got to make it count for something on Monday Night Football. So you got half your gift, and now your team has to give you the other half. So see if you can take advantage of that. But happy born day once again. All right. Let's get to the comment section real quick. We got a little bit of time. We ain't got a ton, so we'll get to what we can get to, and then we'll get out of here. All right. See where we are. Niners fan writes, Lou, I forgot to say this, but I'm fully aware we are going to be paying Brock top QB money, meaning 60 plus mil. That's why I believe our Super Bowl window is over. You're going to pay him. Your window is not closed. You're a good organization. You're run the right way. And so you have good players. You're going to continue to draft well because that's what you do. And you just got to be healthy, right? Your window is not closed, but it is going to make it substantially harder, right? If Brock Purdy is a passenger essentially, and not able to lift those around him necessarily, it could be a bit of a hindrance to adding, high level talent around him. But that's what the draft is for, and you guys have done a really good job of drafting players and getting them on cheap contracts and things of that nature, and getting cheap labor in there. And you're just going to have to continue to be able to do that. Purdy's contract is going to be massive, but you guys are prepared. You were prepared for this. This didn't spring on them. They were aware that this was happening, and they may have to make a move or two in the future that comes of this deal because they signed into the contract. You can't keep everybody, I'm aware, but you can find good football players and find a way to surround Brock Purdy with enough talent that you're still one of the better teams in the league. I don't think you guys are going away, and I don't think your window is closed. It will make things more difficult, but that's the price you pay for having a quarterback. Whether you love that quarterback or not, it remains to be seen, but it could be worse. You could be one of these teams out here, hoping to bottom out so you can get you a quarterback. You're not. So, we'll see what happens, but I think you're smart enough to know that he's getting paid, and I don't think your window's closed. I don't think your window's closed at all. But, we'll see what happens. Kyle W. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Midnight Marauder holding it down. Hail, my guy. Hail. Really appreciate you, Kyle. Thank you for the support, and love talking to a fellow Midnight Marauder. You know the drill. You know the routine. You know my steez. Let's see where we are now. think we might be able to get out of here. Nothing seems to be addressed to me necessarily. Sheree says, you thought this game would prove it? Yeah, I thought this game would prove. If Seattle somehow won this game, I would have had a whole different outlook on who they were and what they were capable of. This is kind of what I expected them to be, right? They did, like, this week. I truly believe everything that I thought would happen happened with the games that were meaningful, impactful. I thought Philadelphia would beat Pittsburgh. I thought the Buffalo Bills would beat Detroit. I thought that Seattle would lose at home to Green Bay. I didn't think the Chargers were going to lose to the Bucks. Baker Mayfield had been winless in his previous 5 attempts at beating the Chargers. I thought they were going to get Lad McConkey. I'm not sure if he played or not. I thought they were going to get him back. The Chargers have been super stingy defensively. I just thought maybe Baker Mayfield could be cooled off. Clearly, I was wrong. They struggled defensively in that game, and it clearly showed. The Chargers can't score, though, and I should have known better. Like, they can't score. Their offense is anemic. So that was the one that I kind of kicking myself over, because I thought long and hard about it, but I didn't get that one. But I thought that we would see Seattle was overmatched when they play teams the caliber of a Green Bay next week when they play Minnesota. I think you're going to see once again that, you know, they're overmatched in games like that against opponents like that. But we'll see. You know, every time I've counted Seattle out this season, they've bounced back and they've won a game that I didn't see them winning. Like, case in point, when they went to Atlanta and throttled the Falcons. This was when Atlanta was still really good. And they went there and they beat them up good. You know, that came out of nowhere. Like, whoa, wait, what? I didn't think they were going to San Francisco and winning that game, right? And they came out of there with a win. And every time I'm ready to count them out, they find a way to pick themselves up off the canvas. And maybe next week is one of those games against Minnesota where they do that, but I just don't anticipate that being the case. Samuel S. writes, Jared Goff really won a game in which he threw 5 picks and lost a game in which he threw 5 touchdowns. You can't make this shit up, bro. Crying. That's the NFL for you, man. Like, you can do everything in your power. I mean, Joe Burrow is a living testimony to that. You can do everything in your power as a quarterback to win or to lose, but it's the team around you that's ultimately going to help determine which is which. You could play your ass off those 5 touchdown passes, but if your defense gives up 48 points, which is what the Lions did today, what difference does it make, right? You're probably not going to score 49 on the other side. Likelihood is you won't, at least. And then you could throw 5 picks like Jared Goff did, but your defense is like, no, we're not losing this game. And so you still find a way to win. So it just goes to show you that football is the ultimate team sport. Basketball, one single guy can take over a game and decide the outcome. Baseball, same thing. You get a hot pitcher, he can dominate a game and go a complete 9 innings and shut it down, right? Football, doesn't matter. One guy can't take over a game. One guy can't take over a game. And so it's a team sport. All right. All right. So we got through all the comments. So we're going to get out of here. Big win for the Green Bay Packers tonight, 30-13 over the Seattle Seahawks. I'm shocked at how dominant they were. I thought that this would be a much closer game that Seattle was in, but I just thought Green Bay would be too much for them. They came out They won the toss. They took the football. They marched it down the field. And I thought they set the tone with that first possession. And Josh Jacobs had a great first half. And Seattle just never really seemed to be able to match the Packers' intensity from the opening kickoff. And they couldn't score. And that interception Geno threw before the half was a backbreaker because whatever momentum you were trying to build before the end of the first half was killed right there and then and there. It was dead at that point. And the penalties, the mistakes, just too much to overcome. And then Geno gets hurt. And boy, Sam Howell was awful tonight. And, you know, it was, I didn't think he was done any favors by his offensive coordinator, because here he is coming into the game cold off the bench, and it felt like Eric Bieniemy was calling the plays all over again. Because I swear to you, his first 10 snaps, I think 8 or 9 of them were passes. And I'm just like, what are you doing here? Like, seriously, you're not going to try to run the ball at all and give this man any kind of, you know, like they scored a touchdown on a run with Zach Charbonnet. And you're like, okay, that's the 24-yarder, as a matter of fact. And you're like, let's get more of that. Like, Sam Howell is in no position to come in here and be slinging the ball around the football field. What are you doing? And that offensive line wasn't great, but he wasn't good either. Like, you could tell he was sped up. He was confused. He was scared. Again, he's damaged goods. He's really damaged goods. It's a shame what happened to him in Washington, but you could see the ill effects from it if you've watched his entire NFL career. And so the Green Bay took advantage of that. But they were getting after Geno when he was in the game too. You know, really good defensive performance. Edgerrin Cooper, man, I wanted him in the draft. God, he looked good tonight. He looked so good. Pause. Oh man, it's fun seeing young players kind of come of age. He looked excellent tonight. They got some good ones. Quay Walker went down. Edgerrin Cooper said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of business. I got it." Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. Packers improved to 10-4, and a win next week on Monday Night Football over the New Orleans Saints will clinch a playoff berth for the Green Bay Packers. And don't count them out of the division just yet. They need a miracle, as I've laid out already. But the first leg of that took place with the Lions losing, and who knows what, it's family business on Monday night. Who knows what's going to happen with Minnesota and Chicago? I know Chicago's going to lose, but for what it's worth, they're still in the NFC North race, but they're that much closer to clinching a playoff berth with their 10th win of the season. Meanwhile, Seattle is now out of the playoffs. If it started today, they would be on the outside looking in at 8-6. They're tied atop the division with the Los Angeles Rams. Rams own the tiebreaker, having won their head-to-head matchup. Those two teams lock horns in Week 18. That could be and probably will ultimately be for the division, assuming that Seattle stays within one game of the Rams down the stretch. But we will see what happens. The Rams do play 2 more division games, and they have a date with the Jets next week. Jets finally won a game. Who knows? They could play spoilers next week against the Rams. But things just got infinitely harder for Seattle. We knew it was going to be an uphill trek. Playing the Packers, playing the Vikings. We knew it was going to be tough on them. But you expected a better performance than this. So where does this leave them? And then, the Geno Smith injury complicates matters. They feel like a team trending in the wrong direction at the very wrong time, like the absolute wrong time of the season. But again, it feels like their season has been like 4 different seasons. 3-0 start, then like the 1-5 stretch. And then, they won, they were 8-5 after being 4-5, so they won 4 in a row. So start 3-0, then go 1-5, then you go 3-0, and I think they got a chance to finish this thing up down the stretch pretty rough, and finish 1-3 maybe down the stretch and miss the playoffs. That's what it kind of feels like they could do, but we'll see. Give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. If you're a new user of BetUS, use the promo code YouTube150 to get you 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Remember, we going to the DR June 26th through the 30th. Want you to be a part of it. We sunning, we funning. All the information you need down in the description of the video. Click on that link. And you got any questions, hit me up, LouieTeeNetwork@gmail.com. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. Packers take care of business. 30-13, 10-4 in the season. Seahawks dropped to 8-6 and out of the playoffs. Rams now in first place in the NFC West. See you tomorrow.